The rain fell hard on Research Station Epsilon 7 that night. Dr. Hana Kwan stood at the eastern window of the laboratory, watching the storms rage across the purple plains of Taros Prime. She had been on this frontier world for 2 years now, studying the dangerous creatures that made this planet their home. Tonight something felt different, wrong. Her communicator buzzed. It was Isolde, her research assistant, calling from the perimeter station. The young woman's voice crackled through the device, barely audible over the storm. "Dr. Kwan, you need to see this. About 3 kilometers north, there are bodies. Vakri bodies," Hana's breath caught. The Vakri were the apex predators of this world. 6-limbed creatures covered in armored scales with claws that could tear through steel. The galactic community feared them. Entire colonies had been abandoned because of Vakri territories. Nothing killed Vakri, nothing except other Vakri. She grabbed her field coat and headed for the transport bay. Commander Doyen stopped her at the door. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many frontier disasters. "Where are you going in this storm?" "There's been a Vakri incident. I need to investigate." Doyen frowned. "Let security handle it. Vakri territory is off limits for research staff. I'm the xenobiologist. This is literally my job." He stepped aside but called after her. "Be careful, Hana. And whatever you find out there, remember the protocols. No interference with Vakri. Ever." The transport vehicle cut through the storm with difficulty. Isolde met her at the northern perimeter holding a scanner. The young woman looked shaken. "It's bad, Doctor. A whole pack. 8 adults, all dead. Territorial fight, probably." They walked through the mud and rain until they reached the site. Hana had seen death before, but this was brutal even by Vakri standards. The bodies were torn apart, scattered across the clearing. Her scanner picked up heat signatures and her heart sank. "Isolde, there are survivors." Survivors? But the scanner showed, not adults, cubs. They found them huddled beneath the corpse of what had probably been their mother. 3 small Vakri, each barely the size of a large dog. They were covered in blood and mud, shivering despite the natural armor on their bodies. One had a stripe of lighter scales down its back. Another was almost pure black, like a shadow. The third had strange echo pattern markings on its head. Isolde backed away. "Doctor, we can't. The protocols are clear. Vakri cubs are never to be approached. They imprint aggression. In 6 months, they'll be large enough to kill us both." "They're babies," Hana said softly. "Look at them. They're terrified. They're predators. The Council has studied them for decades. Vakri don't form bonds. They don't remember kindness. Even if we help them now, they'll hunt us later. It's their nature." Hana knelt in the mud, ignoring the warning growls from the cubs. They were weak, injured, and alone. Every instinct in her body told her what every human had known for thousands of years. A child was a child, regardless of species. She had seen the ancient vids from Earth. Humans had taken wolf cubs and created companions. They had befriended wildcats. Humanity's greatest strength had always been seeing potential where others saw danger. "I'm taking them back," she said. "Commander Doyen will never allow it." "Then we don't tell him." "Not yet." They transported the cubs in a sealed container back to the station. Hana used her access codes to bring them into her private research lab, a space she had set up in the lower levels for studying specimen behavior. She worked through the night, treating their wounds, cleaning their scales, offering them synthesized protein that matched their dietary needs. The cubs didn't attack. They watched her with intelligent eyes, yellow and bright in the dim light. When she spoke softly to them, they stopped growling. When she carefully bandaged the wounds on Stripe's leg, he flinched but didn't bite. Shadow, the darkest one, was the most cautious, staying in the corner. Echo, with the strange markings, was curious, tilting his head when Hana moved around the lab. Over the following days, Hana fell into a routine. She would arrive before dawn, bringing food and fresh water. She would check their wounds, noting how quickly they healed. Vakri biology was remarkable. Within a week, they were moving normally. Within 2 weeks, they had doubled in size. Isolde helped when she could, though fear never left her eyes. "They're growing so fast, Doctor. In another month, they'll be too large to control. I'm not trying to control them. I'm helping them survive. The Council says Vakri cubs don't form memories like other species. They forget everything except hunting and killing. This kindness you're showing them means nothing." Hana didn't argue. She simply continued her work. She named them privately, Stripe, Shadow, and Echo. She would never tell the Council that. Names implied connection, and connection with Vakri was forbidden. But something was happening. The cubs began responding to her voice. When she entered the lab, they would approach instead of retreat. Stripe would make a low rumbling sound that almost seemed like contentment. Echo would follow her around the space, watching everything she did. Even cautious Shadow began accepting food directly from her hand. 3 months passed. The cubs were now the size of adult Earth lions, their claws sharp enough to cut through metal, their jaws powerful enough to crush bone. They could have killed Hana at any moment. They never did. Then the Galactic Council sent inspectors. Doyun called her to his office. His face was grim. They're doing a random check of all frontier research stations. They'll scan every level, every lab. If they find those cubs, you'll face criminal charges. Interfering with Vakri development is a serious violation. I saved their lives. You broke the law. You know what they say about Vakri. You can't domesticate them. You can't befriend them. They're not like Earth animals. They don't remember kindness. That night, Hana led the 3 cubs out of the station under cover of darkness. She brought them to the edge of the wilderness, to the place where the forest met the plains. They were strong now, healthy, capable of surviving on their own. She knelt before them one last time. Stripe approached, his massive head level with hers. She placed her hand on his snout, feeling the warmth beneath the scales. "I hope you have good lives," she whispered. "I hope the galaxy is wrong about you." The 3 cubs looked at her for a long moment. Then they turned and disappeared into the darkness of the forest. Hana watched them go, tears mixing with the rain on her face. Back at the station, Doyen found her in the lab. "Did you release them?" "Yes." "Good. Now forget about them, Hana. You wasted your empathy. Predators don't remember. They only hunt. In a year, if you meet them again, they'll kill you without hesitation. That's what the science says. That's what the council knows. That's what Vakri do." Hana said nothing. She simply turned back to her work, hoping that somewhere in the wilderness, 3 cubs remembered the human who had chosen compassion over fear. But she would never see them again. Or so she thought. 5 years changed many things at Research Station Epsilon 7. Hana had been promoted to chief xenobiologist, a position that came with more responsibility and less freedom. Commander Doyen had retired, replaced by a younger officer who ran the station with military precision. New faces arrived every few months. Old friendships faded into professional relationships, but Hana never forgot the 3 cubs. She tried not to think about them. Every time she did, she wondered if they had survived, if they had found a pack, if they remembered anything at all from those 3 months in her lab. The council's words echoed in her mind constantly. Vakri don't remember. They don't form bonds. They are pure predators driven only by instinct and hunger. Yet something inside her refused to believe it. Jiho Lee, the new security chief, was nothing like Doyen. Where the old commander had been understanding, Jiho was strict. Where Doyen had bent rules, Jiho followed them exactly. He was a man who believed in protocols, procedures, and the accumulated wisdom of the Galactic Council. "Dr. Kwan," he said during one of their meetings, "I've been reviewing the station logs. 5 years ago, there was an incident involving Vakri cubs. The report says they were released into the wild after being briefly observed. Were you involved?" Hana kept her face neutral. "I was the xenobiologist on duty. Yes. The report is thin on details. There wasn't much to detail. We found abandoned cubs. We observed them briefly as required by research protocols. Then we released them. Standard procedure." Jiho studied her face. "The council recommends termination in such cases. Vakri cubs are too dangerous to release back into the ecosystem. I followed Commander Doyen's orders." He nodded slowly but didn't look convinced. "Just remember, Doctor, Vakri are not pets. They're not companions. They're killing machines. The council has centuries of data on this." After he left, Hana returned to her real work. She was studying the migration patterns of herbivores on the southern plains with her colleague, Boram Han. Boram was a quiet woman who had worked on Taros Prime longer than anyone else at the station. She understood the planet in ways that most researchers never would. They were reviewing movement data when Boram pointed to something unusual on the map. "There's a Vakri pack in the Northern Territories. Large one. 15 members at least. That's not unusual," Hana said. "Packs can get that large." "Yes, but this pack is different. Reports from survey teams say they're unusually coordinated. And they have 3 members that stand out. One has stripe markings. One is almost completely black. One has echo patterns on its head. Hana's heart stopped. When were these reports filed? Over the past year. Different teams, different times. But the descriptions are consistent. Hana pulled up the survey images on her terminal. The quality was poor, taken from long distance with zoom lenses. But she could see them. 3 large Valkyrie, fully grown now, powerful and deadly. The markings were unmistakable. Stripe, shadow, echo. They had survived. Not just survived. They had thrived. I want to study that pack, Hana said suddenly. Borum looked at her with concern. Hana, that's impossible. The protocols don't allow close observation of Valkyrie packs. It's too dangerous. We have drones. We have long-range equipment. Jiho will never approve it. She was right. When Hana submitted the research proposal, Jiho rejected it within an hour. His message was brief and clear. Valkyrie observation carries unacceptable risk. Request denied. But Hana couldn't stop thinking about them. She found herself reviewing every survey report that mentioned the Northern Pack. She studied their territory, their hunting patterns, their behavior. And the more she read, the more she noticed something strange. The pack was avoiding conflict. Other Valkyrie packs were territorial and aggressive, attacking anything that entered their hunting grounds. But this pack seemed different. Research teams reported close encounters where the pack had simply watched them from a distance before moving away. Equipment left overnight in their territory remained undamaged. Survey drones that crashed in their region were found later, carefully moved to clearings where recovery teams could easily spot them. They're protecting us, Hana whispered to herself one night. Who is? Isel had appeared at her lab door. The young woman was older now, more confident but still cautious. The Northern Pack. Look at these reports. Every other Valkyrie pack attacks or damages our equipment. But this pack seems to avoid confrontation with humans. Isel studied the data. That is strange. But it could be coincidence. 15 separate incidents over 3 years. That's not coincidence. What are you suggesting? Hana hesitated. What if they remember? Remember what? Kindness, Isel stepped back. Hana, no. We've been through this. The Council has studied Valkyrie for over a century. They don't form long-term memories the way other species do. They live in the moment. Instinct and survival. Nothing more. Then explain the data. I can't, but that doesn't mean your explanation is correct. Maybe this pack is just less aggressive. Maybe they're well-fed. Maybe there's a territory reason we don't understand. Hana wanted to argue but knew it was pointless. Everyone believed the Council. Everyone trusted the science. Everyone except her. Months passed. The pattern continued. The Northern Pack maintained its territory but showed no aggression toward humans. Other packs in the region were normal, attacking and defending with typical Valkyrie ferocity. But the 3 marked individuals and their pack remained peaceful toward research teams. Jiho noticed the pattern too. He called Hana to his office one afternoon, data displayed on his wall screens. I've been tracking something unusual. The Northern Pack. They're behaving abnormally. I've noticed that too. The Council wants me to investigate. They're concerned about disease or environmental factors that might be affecting predator behavior. It's not disease, Hana said quietly. How do you know? Because I think those 3 marked Valkyrie are the cubs from 5 years ago. Jiho stared at her. That's impossible. Even if they were, it wouldn't matter. Valkyrie don't remember. They don't form attachments. Whatever you think you did for them, they forgot it the moment you released them. Then why are they different? I don't know. But it's not because they remember you, Dr. Kwan. That's not how their brains work. The science is clear. Hana left his office feeling frustrated. Everyone kept repeating the same thing. The science is clear. The Council knows best. Valkyrie are just animals. But she had seen intelligence in their eyes. She had felt connection in those 3 months. She knew what she had witnessed. That night she stood at the same eastern window where she had stood 5 years ago. The storms had returned, lightning cutting across the purple sky. Somewhere out there in the wilderness, 3 Valkyrie she had saved were living their lives. Did they remember her voice? Did they remember the food she brought? Did they remember the gentle hands that had bandaged their wounds? Or was everyone right? Was she fooling herself with human sentiment, projecting emotions onto creatures that felt nothing but hunger and the drive to hunt? Borum found her there an hour later. Still thinking about them? Always. Maybe it's better not to know. Maybe it's better to believe they forgot. Less painful that way. Maybe, Hana said. But I don't think they did forget. I think they remember everything. And someday I'm going to prove it. Borum smiled sadly. Be careful with hope, Hana. Sometimes the universe doesn't give us the answers we want. Sometimes it does, Hana replied, watching the lightning illuminate the distant forest where 3 shadows moved through the darkness, alive and strong and free. She didn't know that soon, very soon, she would learn the truth. And that truth would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about predators, memory, and the power of kindness. The alert came through at dawn. Hana was in the lab reviewing data when the station's emergency system activated. Red lights flashed throughout the corridors and Mirasong's voice crackled over every speaker. All personnel, this is not a drill. We have confirmed sightings of an unknown Valkyrie pack moving into the northern territories. Size estimate, minimum 12 individuals. Aggression level, extreme. Evacuation protocols are now in effect. Hana ran to the command center. Jiho was already there, studying tactical displays with his security team. The screens showed heat signatures moving rapidly through the forest. Large signatures. Too many of them. Where did they come from? Hana asked. Jiho didn't look up. We don't know. They weren't on any of our tracking systems yesterday. They must have crossed the mountain range during the night. And they're moving straight toward the northern pack's territory. The pack with the 3 marked individuals. Yes, this is going to be a territorial war. When 2 Valkyrie packs fight, everything in the area becomes a target. We're evacuating all non-essential personnel immediately. What about the research outpost? We have 5 years of data stored there. We'll recover it after the situation stabilizes. That data is irreplaceable. If the outpost is destroyed on Dr. Kwan, this is not negotiable. Human lives come first, but Hana couldn't let it go. That outpost contained her life's work. Studies on predator behavior, migration patterns, ecological data that couldn't be replicated. She found Sunwoo Kang in the transport bay. He was a pilot, one of the best, and more importantly, he was her friend. I need you to fly me to the northern outpost, she said. Sunwoo looked at her like she was crazy. Did you not hear the evacuation order? I heard it. But I also know we have a 2-hour window before those packs engage. That's enough time to get there, download the critical data, and get back. Hana, this is insane, please. That research is my entire career. I can't lose it. Sunwoo sighed, the kind of sigh that meant he was about to do something stupid because a friend asked. Fine, but we go fast, we stay low, and at the first sign of trouble, we leave. Understood? The flight took 20 minutes. The transport cut through morning mist, staying below the tree line to avoid detection. The forest below was quiet, too quiet. Hana could see movement in the shadows, large shapes disappearing between trees. The Valkyrie were positioning themselves for war. The outpost was a small building built into a hillside, designed to blend with the environment. Sunwoo landed the transport in the clearing nearby, engines still running. Make it quick. Hana ran inside and started the data download. 5 years of research began transferring to portable drives. She worked fast, her fingers moving across keyboards and terminals. Outside she could hear sounds in the distance, roars, the kind that made human instincts scream to run. Hana, Sunwoo's voice came through her communicator. We have movement. Multiple targets closing on our position. How long do I have? Minutes. Maybe less. The download was only half finished. She couldn't leave yet. She couldn't lose this data. She kept working, watching the progress bar climb slowly. 70%, 80%, then she heard it. The sound of claws on metal. Something was on the transport. Sunwoo? No response. Hana grabbed a portable scanner and checked outside. What she saw made her blood freeze. The rival pack had found them. 9 massive Valkyrie surrounded the outpost, each one larger than any she had seen before. These weren't normal pack members. These were warriors, scarred and deadly, built for killing. And Sunwoo was on the ground, blood spreading from a wound on his leg. He had tried to defend the transport. He had failed. The Valkyrie were circling now, not rushing, taking their time. They knew their prey couldn't escape. One of them, the largest, began tearing at the outpost door. The metal shrieked and bent. They would be inside within minutes. Hana dragged Sunwoo into the outpost and sealed the door. It wouldn't hold long. She could hear them outside clawing and tearing. The walls were reinforced, but not against 9 adult Valkyrie working together. I'm sorry. Sunwoo gasped, pain evident in his voice. I should have been faster. It's not your fault. We're trapped. They won't stop until we're dead. Hana tried the communicator, but something was jamming the signal. The rival pack was smart. They had learned to disable human technology. She couldn't call for help. She couldn't reach the station. They were alone. The walls began to crack. Claws punched through the reinforced panels. Yellow eyes gleamed in the gaps, watching them with predator patience. Hana's mind raced. There had to be a way out. There had to be something. But she knew the truth. Valkyrie didn't give up. Valkyrie didn't show mercy. When they started a hunt, they finished it. The main door buckled. The largest Valkyrie was nearly through. In that moment, Hana thought of Stripe, Shadow, and Echo. She thought of the 3 cubs she had saved 5 years ago. She thought of how they had looked at her with intelligent eyes, how they had responded to her voice, how they had accepted her kindness. And she thought of what everyone had told her. Valkyrie don't remember. They don't form bonds. They are predators. Nothing more, but what if they were wrong? Hana, what are you doing? Sunwoo asked as she moved toward the door. Something stupid. Don't. But she was already opening the emergency hatch, stepping out into the clearing. The 9 Valkyries stopped their assault, surprised by prey that walked willingly into their reach. They formed a circle around her, massive and terrifying, their scales gleaming in the morning light. The largest one, the pack leader, approached. He was twice the size of the cubs she remembered, his claws as long as her forearm, his jaws capable of crushing her skull with one bite. Hana was shaking, but she stood her ground. She opened her mouth and made the sound. The feeding call. The same soft clicking call she had used 5 years ago when bringing food to 3 frightened cubs in her lab. The rival pack paused. Confused by the noise, Hana called again, louder this time, her voice carrying across the clearing into the forest beyond. Back at the station, Jiho was watching through satellite feed. He saw Hana standing in the clearing surrounded by hostile Valkyrie. He saw her making strange sounds. "What is she doing?" he whispered. "She's going to get herself killed." Mira, at the communication station, shook her head. "She's lost her mind. There's no way to save her now." But Hana kept calling. She called because it was her only hope. She called because she believed something everyone else had told her was impossible. She called because 5 years ago she had shown kindness to 3 cubs, and some part of her, some stubborn human part, believed they would remember. The rival pack closed in. The leader opened his jaws, ready to strike, and then the forest exploded with sound. 3 roars, louder than anything Hana had ever heard, erupted from the trees. 3 massive shapes burst from the wilderness at full sprint, closing the distance in seconds. Stripe arrived first. He was enormous now, his body a wall of muscle and armor, his striped pattern making him unmistakable. He didn't slow down. He crashed into the rival leader with the force of a transport vehicle, sending the larger Valkyrie tumbling across the clearing. Shadow came from the left, a blur of black scales and fury, slamming into 2 rivals who had been moving toward Hana. Echo hit from the right, his distinctive markings flashing as he attacked with precision strikes, keeping 3 more rivals away from the human in the center. The rival pack tried to regroup, but they were facing something they didn't understand. 3 Valkyrie who fought not for territory or food, but for something the galaxy said was impossible. They fought for a memory. They fought for kindness. They fought for the human who had saved their lives. The Galactic Council chambers were built to inspire awe. Located in the heart of the capital station, the massive circular room featured viewing screens larger than buildings and seats for representatives from hundreds of worlds. Today, every seat was filled. Today, the entire galaxy was watching. Hana stood in the center of the chamber, feeling very small. She wore her formal research uniform, cleaned and pressed, nothing like the blood-stained clothes from 3 weeks ago. Beside her stood Ambassador Taewon Yun, humanity's diplomatic representative. He was an older man with kind eyes and a reputation for defending human interests, even when the rest of the galaxy disagreed. "Are you ready?" he asked quietly. "No," Hana admitted, "but I'm here anyway." The council consisted of 12 species, each represented by their most respected scientists and leaders. Counselor Velarex, an avian species with brilliant blue feathers, spoke first. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "Dr. Hana Kwan, you stand accused of violating Protocol 7 of the Predator Interaction Guidelines. You rescued and raised 3 Valkyrie cubs despite explicit prohibitions. You released them into the wild rather than terminating them as required. And most seriously, You have claimed these actions resulted in impossible behavioral patterns. How do you plead? Not guilty, Hana said clearly. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Counselor Thrumus, an aquatic species whose tank suit bubbled softly, leaned forward. You do not deny your actions? I don't deny what I did, but I deny that it was wrong. The predator protocols exist for a reason, Velarek said. Vakri are dangerous. They cannot be domesticated. They cannot form emotional bonds. They are driven purely by instinct. Every study for the past century confirms this. Then every study for the past century is incomplete, Hana replied. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Belarex raised a wing for silence. That is a serious accusation, Dr. Kwan. You claim that the combined research of hundreds of scientists across dozens of species is fundamentally flawed? I claim that it's based on observation without interaction. You've studied Vakri from a distance. You've watched them hunt and fight, but you've never tried to understand them. You've never shown them kindness. Because showing kindness to a predator is foolish and dangerous, Thrumus said. It is a waste of resources and risks human life. Ambassador Taewon stepped forward. If I may address the council, humanity has extensive experience with predators. For thousands of years on our homeworld, we lived alongside creatures that could easily kill us. Wolves, large cats, bears, and we learned something that apparently the rest of the galaxy missed. And what is that? Velirex asked. Predators are intelligent. Predators can remember, and predators can change when shown consistent kindness and respect. Impossible, Thrumus said flatly. Our research clearly shows— Your research shows what happens when you treat predators as mindless killers, Taewon interrupted. Humans tried a different approach. We took wolf cubs and raised them with care. Over generations they became dogs, companions, friends. We befriended wild cats. They became house cats. We didn't conquer these species. We formed partnerships with them. The Vakri are not earth animals, Velirex argued. They are far more dangerous. More dangerous, yes, but not more intelligent. In fact, our observations suggest Vakri may be more intelligent than any predator species Earth produced, which means they have even greater capacity for memory, learning, and emotional bonding. Hana activated the viewing screens. Footage from 3 weeks ago began playing. The entire council watched as 9 rival Vakri surrounded her in the clearing. They watched as she made the feeding call. They watched as Stripe, Shadow, and Echo burst from the forest at full speed. The chamber fell completely silent as the battle unfolded on screen. Every delegate watched 3 Vakri fight with coordinated precision to protect a single human. They watched wounds being inflicted and ignored. They watched Stripe kill the rival leader. And they watched the aftermath, as 3 massive predators lowered their heads and allowed Hana to touch them, to treat their wounds, to speak softly to them. When the footage ended, no one spoke for a long moment. Finally, Thrumus said, "This could be coincidence. Territorial behavior. The pack happened to be nearby and engaged the rivals for reasons unrelated to Dr. Kwan." "Then explain this," Hana said. More footage appeared, this time from various dates over the past 5 years. Survey teams approaching territory and being watched but not attacked. Equipment being carefully moved rather than destroyed. Drone footage showing the 3 marked Vakri near research stations, always watching, never threatening. "They've been protecting us for 5 years, Hana said, "ever since I released them. They remembered my kindness and they chose to extend that consideration to other humans. That's not instinct. That's not coincidence. That's conscious choice based on memory and emotional connection." Jiho appeared on one of the screens. Transmitted from Research Station Epsilon 7. "Counselors, I am Security Chief Jiho Lee. 3 weeks ago, I would have agreed with Protocol 7. I believed Vakri were mindless predators. I was wrong. I've reviewed every piece of data we have on the Northern Pack. The evidence is overwhelming. These Vakri are behaving in ways that contradict established theory." Other voices joined in. Forum presented ecological data, showing the Northern Pack maintaining territories in ways that minimized conflict with human research operations. Mira shared communication logs of survey teams reporting unusual peaceful encounters. Even Sunwoo spoke, his voice steady despite his injuries, describing how Echo had carefully avoided causing fatal wounds during the fight, despite having multiple opportunities. The evidence mounted piece by piece, testimony by testimony. And slowly, the mood in the chamber began to shift. Counselor Thrumus turned to his scientific advisors, engaging in whispered conversation. Other counselors did the same. The whispers grew louder, became arguments, became heated discussions. Finally, Velarex raised her wing again. This council will recess for deliberation. We will reconvene in 1 hour. The longest hour of Hana's life passed in a blur. She sat in a waiting room with Ambassador Taewon, saying nothing, thinking about 3 cubs she had found in the rain 5 years ago. Thinking about the choice she had made to help them despite the rules. Thinking about how they had repaid that kindness. When the council reconvened, every delegate looked exhausted. Velarex spoke for them all. Dr. Hana Kwan. After reviewing the evidence and engaging in extensive discussion, this council has reached several conclusions. First, we acknowledge that our understanding of Vakri cognition was incomplete. The evidence you have presented suggests these creatures possess long-term memory, emotional capacity, and decision-making abilities beyond what our research indicated. Hana felt her heart racing. Second, we recognize that Protocol 7 was based on incomplete data. While caution with dangerous species is warranted, blanket prohibitions on interaction prevented us from learning valuable information about predator intelligence. Velarex paused, looking directly at Hana. Third, we find that your actions, while technically in violation of established protocol, were scientifically sound and ethically justified. You have discovered something remarkable, Dr. Kwan. You have shown us that kindness can transcend species barriers in ways we did not think possible. The chamber erupted in applause. Not everyone was clapping. Some delegates looked angry or skeptical, but the majority seemed moved by what they had witnessed. Thrumas spoke next. We are establishing a new research initiative, the Predator Cognition and Ethical Interaction Program. Dr. Kwan, we would like you to lead this program. Your mission will be to develop new protocols for studying dangerous species, protocols based on respect and understanding rather than fear. Hana could barely speak. I accept. There is one condition, Velarex added. We want detailed documentation of your interactions with the Northern Pack. We want to understand exactly how these bonds are formed and maintained. The galaxy needs to learn from this. 2 months later, Hana stood in the same clearing where she had nearly died. A small research camp had been established nearby, staffed with volunteers who understood the risks and the potential rewards. New protocols were in place, protocols built on human wisdom rather than galactic fear. She made the feeding call. The same soft, clicking sound from 7 years ago. Within minutes, 3 massive shapes emerged from the forest. Stripe, Shadow, and Echo, their wounds healed, their scales gleaming in the afternoon sun. They approached without hesitation, without aggression, moving with the confidence of beings who knew they were welcome. Hana touched each of them in turn, checking their health, speaking softly. They responded with rumbles and chirps, sounds of contentment and recognition. The rest of their pack waited at the forest edge, watching curiously as their leaders interacted with the strange, soft creature who had changed everything. Researchers recorded every moment, every interaction, building a new understanding of what predators could be when given the chance. Not mindless killers, not simple animals, but intelligent beings capable of memory, loyalty, and love. Jiho stood at the camp perimeter watching. He had requested a transfer to the new program, admitting that his old beliefs had been wrong. I spent my whole career following rules that were based on fear. It took one brave woman to show us there was a better way. Ambassador Taewon visited the camp the following week. He watched Hana work with the 3 Vakri, saw the trust and affection between them, and smiled. You know what the most interesting thing about this is? Humanity didn't do anything revolutionary. We didn't invent some new technology or discover some secret. We just did what we've always done. We saw frightened children and chose compassion over fear. The rest of the galaxy thought that was impossible. But humans have been doing it for thousands of years. That evening, as the sun set over Taros Prime, Hana sat in the clearing with Stripe's massive head resting in her lap. Shadow dozed nearby and Echo watched the stars beginning to appear. The rest of the pack had accepted her presence, treating her as part of their family. She thought about everything that had changed. The protocols that had been rewritten, the research initiatives that had been launched, the new understanding spreading across the galaxy that predators were not monsters to be feared, but minds to be respected. All because she had refused to believe that kindness could be forgotten. All because 3 cubs had proven that memory was stronger than instinct. All because sometimes the most important thing a person can do is show compassion when everyone else says it's impossible. They said the predator cubs don't remember kindness. The moment she called, they ran to the human. And in doing so, they changed the galaxy forever. Hana smiled, running her hand over Stripe's scarred scales, feeling his steady heartbeat beneath her palm. This was what humans had always known, what they had learned 10,000 years ago when the first wolf approached the first campfire. Predators remember, predators choose. Predators love. You just have to be brave enough to show them kindness first. And sometimes that kindness comes back when you need it most.